Hello and welcome to episode number 9 of the Peer Project podcast. And welcome to the Den. Once again, my name is Chris Duke. I am your host today and every other week that we do this podcast. Thank you very much for joining us again. I'm here this week to speak to another really amazing guest, and we'll get to her in a wee second, but I do want to say a massive thank you to, once again, I do this every week, but a massive thank you to everyone who has liked, who has subscribed, who has downloaded the podcast, who's listened to it, who's commented, who's just anything at all, who's interacted with us. Thank you, because you are making this what it is. Last week's podcast with Kira from Sweet Bobby, the Sweet Bobby podcast, was the most downloaded and listened to and watched podcast that I've ever done, ever. And I'm very proud of that. So thank you for doing that. And hopefully this week will be just as good. All the links to support us, as always, are in the descriptions of however you are absorbing this podcast. I do want to bring your attention particularly to our coffee link, because bringing this podcast out there, I'll be honest with you, is a bit of a financial hit on myself. I am paying for it out of my own money, and a wee bit of support is always greatly appreciated. So I'll be posting that link in the description as well. So if you do want to support, please do. If you don't, you can still, download and listen to the podcast and watch it and whatever, and that will generate support in the long run. Okay, so moving on to this week's guest, a bit of a left field one, if I'm being honest with you. Sometimes what I do when I'm feeling particularly motivated is I'll jump on Twitter and I will start tweeting celebrities and try to see who will respond and see who will come on the podcast. And I tweeted this person because I knew that she'd been through a very similar journey to what I'd been through. And I thought, I wonder if she'll actually come on and talk to me. Within 2 minutes of tweeting her, she'd followed me on Twitter and told me exactly who to speak to about getting this organised. And that's exactly what I've done. And now I've got her on the podcast. So I want you to relax. I want you to enjoy this week's podcast from Emmerdale, from You've Been Famed. I loved it when she did You've Been Famed. She plays Mandy Dingo. It is Lisa Riley on the Peer Project podcast, episode number 9. No worries. How are you?
I'm really good. We're so busy. We're filming for the 50th at the moment. So it's normally they have Super Soap Week in September where all the soaps kind of go up against each other for like the biggest stunt. But because ours is the 50th, we're doing Soap Month. And it's incredible. It's truly, but it means long hours, and I was doing press as well this morning. So all good. So I'm glad this was able to fit in. So I
was going to say, so you were doing press this morning and then you voluntarily offered to do this. I mean, that's something else.
Well, no, because I was listening to you and Lorraine. It was brilliant. I love Lorraine. She's one of life's luxuries, that lady. She is. And I know she means a lot to you. So for that very reason, I think that's a good sandwich to start with.
Well, funnily enough, you should mention Lorraine, right? Because, and I was actually going to ask you about this later, but you've brought her up, so I might as well talk about it just now.
Yeah.
You were on her show last year, and you were very, very vocal about your mental health and stuff on that, because you were about to go and work on a podcast about grief.
Yes, with Sue Ryder,
the Sue Ryder podcast, So, how was it? Obviously, you know Lorraine quite well. You probably know Lorraine better than I do. How was it chatting to her and kind of the aftermath after that about being so open? Because you got quite upset on TV that day, didn't you?
Yeah, I normally do. I did it this morning because one of the questions was that I was doing an interview for the Daily Mirror, and they said, like, how would your mum feel? The fact that after all these years, you've made it to the milestone of Emmerdale being 50, and how proud she would be. And of course, anything like that, can be a trigger. And it's not just females being hormonal or anything like that. It's how we feel inside. But with Lorraine, she has this ability which she kind of gives you a virtual hug without touching you, and she makes you feel so settled, and so she just oozes trust and honesty, and I think that's lovely, and that's why she's lasted in this brutal career industry that we work in, so long, because people are invested in her because they trust her and they believe her and for everything she stands for. And do you know what? If she doesn't like something, she'll let you know. She tells you. It's not like, this is wonderful, this is wonderful. Life's not like that. It's not always so frothy and sunflowers. Life's not like that. And I think the problem is nowadays, Chris, is that, especially with social media, when people are flicking through social media and they see people like myself, like Lorraine, in the public eye, life's not bliss and, fairy dust and all. It's not. So on days when you feel, let's say, shitty, we can say that.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Let's just own it. I can't bear people in life who don't own it. And you ask anybody at work, it's a case where you've got to be you've got to be real. Like when I'm on set and stuff, playing Mandy Dingle all day, I've got to be high-end, top-end comedy and, and full of beans all the time. But there's some days inside, yes, I do press the bravado button. I know I do. And I know you've done that. I've heard, you say yourself. And just to get through days, it's a mechanism. And maybe people would say I'm acting through the day, possibly, because that is my job. Fundamentally, I'm an actress, you know. But yeah, you press that button, and no matter what's going on inside, however your mental health is and how you're feeling. And for me, some days I'm just devastated that my mum's not with me. I've still got to go and film sometimes 9 scenes in Mandy's salon, which is full of leopard print and pink, and be this camp soap star. And that's what I do.
And, there was a lot of reasons why I specifically went and asked for you to come on here. And one of them is because you and I have actually been on a pretty similar journey. In terms of, and again, if I bring anything up here that you don't want to chat about, that's fine. I've got no issues, right? But is weight. Yeah. Now, I used to be very, very overweight. I was 25 stone at one point in my life. And
you've done amazing. Look at you. Good for you.
Just like you. Like I worked really hard, and
it's possible. Yeah.
I put my weight journey in line with my mental health journey, because when I was at my heaviest, I would say that's when my mental health was at its worst. And then as my weight got lighter, my mental weight got lighter. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, well, can I ask you before I answer that? Yeah. Were you, through your weight and your bigger size, were you drinking a hell of a lot as well?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now we've got our parallels. Yeah. So when people say, do you go to the freezer because you're feeling depressed and get a huge tub of Ben & Jerry's and devour it yourself and get a bottle of Malbec and polish the bottle of wine off? I'll go tick, tick. Yeah, that was me. Yeah, of course. I didn't know it, Chris, at the time. I didn't know it. I've got to be honest, I'm here now, 46. I've had a phenomenal career. I've always worked very hard. I've been very ambitious, done what I wanted. So from being sort of, at drama school from 9 years old, when I wasn't, let's just say, the fat girl, I was the chubby girl then. I just fit in. That's who I was. It was never a hindrance for my career. For God's sake, I was in Fat Friends for 5 years. That's why I got the role. And nowadays, it seems an offence to use the word fat. Well, you wouldn't find a show now called Fat Friends. It'd be classed as offensive. But let's be honest, it was set round a slimming club, about fat people. So that's why the show worked. So, yes, I was getting all the roles I wanted. I hosted You've Been Framed. I was like the bubbly Saturday night girl who, made everyone feel happy and jolly. And that is my personality. I'm like this all the time. I'm very full of beans, as they say. So I didn't ever think that my weight was ever a hindrance. And it certainly was never a hindrance career-wise. But what I was doing was I was partying hard and I was drinking a lot. And then as years went by, and which I've spoken openly about with my mum. When mum got her first diagnosis of cancer, yes, my drinking went up. And of course, with drinking, what comes with drinking? Munching. 3:00 in the morning after, a hell of a lot of wine, the Warburtons comes out, the Lurpak comes out, you're swimming in Lurpak, it's that thick, and then 2 crumpets because you want to as well. All that that's the domino effect.
Yeah.
And you get bigger, and I got bigger and bigger. But again, it never affected my work. Then I got Strictly, okay? And when I got Strictly Come Dancing, I just lost mum. I was at the worst point of my life. But my mum had just literally died. And she'd said to me, she said, darling, go on that dance floor and just be you. That's all you have to do. Just be you. Don't worry about the dancing. You've got rhythm. You're a little bit funky, right? You've been dancing at school, at drama school. Just be you. Me and Robin would train day in, day out, and we'd go back to the hotel and we'd have a bottle of wine. We'd have a glass of wine with dinner and stuff. And again, it was my sleeping mechanism. I wasn't taking Valium. I wasn't taking Sertraline, Ciroxat, all that. The doctors offered it me. I didn't take it, right? It didn't work for me. I didn't want to be that person. But God Almighty, Chris, did the Malbec help? It really helped because I would sleep. And the process carried on. And day in, day out doing Strictly, you don't realise through the volume of cardio that I was doing that I'd never, ever done in my life before. Looking back, I was probably doing at least 4 hours solid of cardio a day, and you're shimmying. But because me and Robin were having such fun in practice, you don't, it's not like going, oh God, let's go and do, a body fit class. Is that motivation? Yeah. We were just having fun. And I slowly was going for my fitting week after week for my Strictly dresses, and they were coming in inches, right? But I was still consuming food in exactly the same mammoth way I was and had been doing. I was still drinking, but again, the cardio, and I was losing weight. And I thought, maybe something deep down that I've ignored all my life is the fact that, eat less, move more. Is there some bloody truth in this? And Strictly proved that to me. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't what you say a chore going, I've got to go and do a 3-week boot camp in order of losing a stone. It was just having fun on Strictly Come Dancing week after week after week. And I got all the way to the end, and I was getting smaller and smaller. And that's, I think, what kicked off when I hate when people go, so Lisa, what was your light bulb moment when you lost weight? Yeah. So mine was my light bulb, was my Strictly experience, I suppose, because I saw it was completely doable. But again, at one point I just said, I'm gonna stop drinking. I'm gonna do it for a month. And it wasn't one of these, these like Stoptobers, because I'm not a sheep. I don't follow suit. I do everything for myself, right? So I just decided to stop drinking. And I did a month, and it became like this little game with me. I was like, well, okay. And then the following month that I was going into, I was like, no, I've got a family christening. I'll have a drink. But I didn't. And it was other people, Chris, that were like, wow, and it's like, if you've got through a Riley family christening without having a drink, you've kind of ticked the box, And then all of a sudden, it really started to show my shape. And then, yes, I went on this serious crash diet. And, I was eating very little, and you get obsessed with the way you look. And can you understand that?
Yeah.
When you start shrinking.
Yep.
When it is that reflection moment when you're looking in the mirror, and we've all made excuses in the past and gone, oh, okay, yeah, that's a mirror that's like makes you look like something from Blackpool Tower. No, you're just overweight. And yeah, I got obsessed with it. I did. And then everyone kind of, again, with social media, jumped on my bandwagon, as it were, and it was like, wow, it's doable. Mm-hmm. And yes, I felt amazing. And now I've found what I feel is my comfy weight. Playing Mandy, I've gone a bit more curvy, and we can make her look with different layers of clothes. We make her look, more curvy and more sexy. That's Mandy Dingle, and I want her to be that way. And I'm not as neurotic as I used to be. Like, I used to literally grimace at a packet of crisps and grimace at a donut. I'm not like that anymore. I'm a lot more, I'm a lot more lenient with myself, because I know I'm healthy. And I know I will be one of those people forever in life that will fluctuate up and down. What I don't like is how in the media that I'm put on this pedestal and like everyone's watching me like an owl, because I don't want to be. I just want to live my life to the best of my ability, where I feel great. I feel brilliant. I was at Leeds Pride yesterday with all my friends, and I was in, a rainbow catsuit, and everyone's like, you look amazing. You look amazing. You look fantastic. Well, do you know what? I felt fantastic. And if you feel it, then everyone can then see you shine, and everyone sees you radiate. And that to me is all that matters in life.
You have no idea how similar our journeys are. I mean, honestly, your story, what you're telling right now, you're telling my story as well. How did lockdown affect you weight-wise and alcohol-wise? Did you have any issues there?
No, I mean, 19th of August, I'll be 7 years without a drop.
Wow.
I know. I'm really proud of that.
Wait, 19th of August?
Yeah, coming up.
Right. All right, this is getting freaky now.
Go on. Are we brother and sister?
19th of August this year, I will be 1 year sober.
Oh my God, we share our birthday.
Yeah.
That's good energy. See, this was meant to happen. This was meant to happen.
But yeah. I mean, well, obviously, maybe not alcohol-wise then, but did lockdown affect you food-wise or weight-wise at all?
Food-wise, not so much. It was gym availability. Yeah.
Okay.
And that obviously, because I have to be strict with myself. I'm not the sort of person that can literally sit down and watch 7 episodes of Stranger Things back to back, right? Because that's not me. I'm not that person. I can watch 1 episode, then I've got to get doing. Of course, I was filming full on, and it was very stressful at work under the protocol that we were under. We weren't taught, Chris, at drama school how to act with dolls, and stand like 2 meters away when your son's being beaten up in the storyline and I can't touch him and I can't cuddle him. It was really weird, things like passing a prop that would take 30 seconds in a shot previously would take 25 minutes because we would have to do it hand by hand to no one's hand to someone else. I mean, it was, looking back, it was ludicrous.
Ridiculous,
on every level. I mean, I have to really pat myself on the back sometimes to think what we went through and the volume of Dettol on the Dingle staircase. How that thing has still got wood. It's a mystery. But yeah, that part of it was okay. I'd go to work and like every day, I'd just have my soup like I would every day before lockdown. Come home and make my dinner here for me and Al. But yeah, I think it was the fact that you found yourself sitting more, and I did. So I'd come back from work, I'd start looking at my lines, and your momentum had gone, because I think everybody had that. I think it was just natural that you can only sit back now and look at yourself, the bigger picture, let's say lacklustered. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was probably lacklustered towards the fact of doability of movement. Yeah. But I've got a treadmill now at my house, so I've got no excuse. So I can watch Stranger Things for an hour whilst on the treadmill.
You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to talk about as well. You mentioned alcohol was your sleeping. What was it? Sleeping mechanism, sleeping support.
Yeah. Complete on every. I couldn't sleep without it. Yeah. Well, so you tell yourself.
Well, this is the parallel that we're talking about here, because before lockdown, I had a pretty busy life before lockdown. I'd written a book and it had gotten quite successful. I was touring the country, and I was
very humbly did very well. It did very well.
I was really, really busy.
Yeah.
All right. It was a #1 bestseller.
There you go. Look, come on. You can have it.
And I was very, very busy. So I'd be on the road, and I'd be visiting schools, and I'd be doing, I'd be publicising about, and then at the end of the day, I would get to the hotel, and I would go to the pub, a couple of pints to start, and I'd be, all right, okay, I'm getting tired now. This is me winding down for the day. And I would go to bed. That would end up becoming, 2 pints wouldn't do it, because, I'd be getting used to that. 3 pints, 4 pints. Mm-hmm. My wake-up call, my light bulb moment, if you want to call it that, was one night I was sitting in the house. I hadn't even had a busy day. It was the middle of lockdown. Yeah. And I drank 19 bottles of beer.
Are you serious?
to get to sleep that night.
That's heavy. That's heavy.
And again, it just when you were talking about the fact that alcohol did that, helped you, and obviously that same thing there for me. How do you cope now? Like, how do you get to sleep now? Like, is there
because Chris, I'm tired. I am.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm genuinely. It's that level of your day. I'm not the sort of person, like say for example, if I've done filming, if I've done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, full days, heavily in storyline, you'd think on a Saturday I'd want to, lay in bed and watch Saturday Kitchen, right? Yes, I do, but then I get itchy feet and I've got to be out, and I like to be doing all the time. If that's the case of, going to see my family over in Manchester, I'm in Yorkshire now, then I'll do that. I never have empty time. That's what I've learned, a big lesson in my life, that I never, ever, ever have any form of empty life. And people say, like, when I come home from work, if I'm here and let's say like Al, my other half, if he's working away, are you lonely? I was like, I don't have time to be lonely, and I know my friends, and they've said this is like, I'm surprised that didn't trigger your drinking again. I said, what do you mean? They said, oh, well, a lot of people, if they come home and they finish work, they've had a busy day, they'll open a bottle of wine because, again, comfort blanket, go to sleep. They'll have a bottle of wine because, they're lonely. I said, I couldn't be less lonely if I tried, and I think it's fundamentally, Chris, the fact that I really like my shoes that I'm walking in. I like this person. I like this person who's not fake, who's not phony, who can literally lay sober in my bed, on my pillow every night, knowing that I go to work, I do my job to the best of my ability. I still really care. I work so hard. I love my job. I love the people I work with. And I never want to be the person that ever throws life away anymore. Because let's be honest here, right? My mum was 58 years old when she died of secondary breast cancer. It then went to, on her death certificate, it's pancreatic cancer, but I think, it's breast cancer. Mm-hmm. My nana, she had cancer, and we've now found out that my great nana had breast cancer, right? So because I'm me, I make a joke of it, and I say, look, my Levi's jeans, my gene pool is not very good, right? So I've got to live with this energy ball forever, and if that means when I'm at work at 6 a.m. and I'm like this, spinning Catherine wheel firecracker, then so be it, because I'm so content in who I am. And it is that feeling of, I don't have sluggish in my life. Let's take Pride again. Like I said, I was at Pride yesterday. The old me would have been there. We got on the bus at 2 p.m, right? The old me would have been there till 1 a.m, right? Literally on the Jaegers, woo, I had the bestest day yesterday with all my colleagues from work, supporting LGBTQ, which I adore, and I support all my friends, right? But I was on my couch at 6:15, right, watching the Commonwealth Games, and I felt great. And then, yes, I've had a really busy day today, but I'm free of any angst. I'm free of anything that would bog me down. Food, feeling sluggish, alcohol, all those worry. Life's too short to worry, and it's all well and good going, you're very optimistic, Lise, you're very positive. It's like, well, I am. And then when people have met me at work and say they come into the show for only 4 weeks, they go, you really are like this, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, because there's so many people in the public eye, I feel, painting this picture, Chris, on social media. And it drives me bonkers. This is my only worry, I think, in life, that life isn't perfect, mm-hmm. right? And stop painting this picture of spotless perfection. It's all right for mums to have a skinny nappy on the floor if you've got kids. It's all right, it's okay to not have a tidy cupboard. It's all right, and so when you go forward in life and you look at on these things on social media, it makes people think, oh, am I not perfect? Because perfect doesn't exist. It's like when people see me in the supermarket, they go, what are you doing here? It's like, well,
Yeah.
do you know what? I'm just like you. I'm buying my sprouts, as if I've got like 13 staff buying all my food for me. I'm not. I was on a plane recently going over to Slovenia, and this guy looked at me. He's like, "Why are you sat next to me?" And I'm like, "I'm going to Slovenia." He's like, "Yeah, but you sat next to me." I was like, "And?" He said, "Well, do you not have a private jet?" I said, "What? A private?" Since when am I going home? And I just call my jet up. No, and I think now you can show people the real you, and thanks to things like however you portray yourself, honestly, on your Instagram, your Facebook, whatever that may be, on podcasts, talking to you, it opens the doors for people to go, do you know what? I'm exactly the same as you. It's just that, yes, I appreciate 6 times a week, every week, I'm in your house, playing this part that you love, But I feel down, I feel miserable, I feel pain, I feel grief terribly. I still have to support my dad through his pain and grief when I feel really shitty. And I still have to be the strong one, because I always have to remember how much I remind dad of mum. And that sometimes can be a bad thing, and the brain can run away with you sometimes, this. And it can take you to a place of going, oh, maybe I shouldn't go and see my dad at the moment because he seems like he's in a bad mindset, because I'm so like it. And am I bringing back memories for the good or for the bad? You've got to think of other things like that. And when you mentioned the grief podcast I did, I speak openly about my brother, who I love more than life itself. But my brother, honestly, is a closed book. Like, you wouldn't know whether he was happy, medium, or sad. You have to dig so deep. You have to really prise him open, or just sometimes just be silent and wait for him to pick up the phone and say, I'm really missing mum today, And we're all different. And that's why we should keep talking like we're doing today, because it makes it accessible for people to realize that they're not alone. We're all in the same boat.
I do want to ask you about grief. And the reason I've got this weird thing that I do when I ask questions, you'll probably find this if you've listened to any of my other podcasts, and I told this to my wife, I ask the question and then I give you the reason why I'm asking the question, and then I ask the question again. For some reason, this is my method.
That's your USP, babe. That's your USP.
But so we, as a family, we've just recently experienced loss. My wife lost her dad back in January, which means my children have lost their grandfather. The first death that they've had to deal with. And if I'm being honest, it's been really, really, really hard. And you're now 10 years removed, 10 years this year? 10 years removed from losing your mum. Does it get any easier? And
well, this was one of the things I put on my Instagram, funnily enough. And I don't know if you saw this, but I did say it's 10 years today. People tell me it's going to get easier. I'm yet to know this. For me personally, no. Like, I'm feeling it now. See, because you said that. No, it's there's moments I just want to phone her. Look, I'm just like, I just want to say, do you know what, Mum? I've had a really great day today at work, and it's agony. And it's also agony that like, I see people that don't have with their mums what I had. I see people committing the worst crimes in the world, and I go, come on, God, why did you take my mum? My mum was freaking phenomenal. She was the life and soul of everything, and you do. And I do have these moments, and I don't know if you're having it now as a family, but you kind of go, why me? Why me? And if that sounds selfish, I used to really worry about sounding selfish about that, but I don't anymore. That's one thing that through my grief counselling, I found out was okay. It was okay to feel that. And it was okay to feel that when I was at work and if I was talking about mum, I'd go back to my dressing room and I'd get changed into different costume for work. And for that 10 minutes where I'm doing my quick change, Chris, I'd be going, oh God, are they thinking I should be over it now? Are they thinking that I should be fine and dandy and gleaming and full of happiness? And because it's so many years now and life goes on, because I don't, and I didn't. And so I don't want to fill you with a load of like negative pain, because again, grief hits people differently, whoever they are and whatever their relationship was with that certain family member or best friend, whatever it may be, or a pet. I've seen people like they've had to have like 3 months off work because their puppy died. It's completely understandable. I get it. But no, the answer is no. I don't deal with my grief very, very well. I don't, and I wish I could. I wish I could grow to get stronger. I wish I could, when I smell Chanel perfume, and I wish that I wouldn't just start crying when I'm in the department store because I can smell her. When I see the colour yellow and it's like my mum, this bright sunshine, I get this like knot. I get a feeling. I get emotional. I'm a person who wears the heart on the sleeve. And I feel it. I feel pain off other people, and that's why I think also a lot of others feel at ease talking to me. Like I'd like to think that I'm there. I said God gave me broad shoulders for a reason, because I really help and I listen to people and I try and give them the best advice that I possibly can. It might be a load of old tosh, but they say it helps them.
But you say there that, you've spent the whole, like, a good 10 minutes of this podcast talking about how it's okay to feel this, it's okay to do that, and then you're saying, you wish you were stronger so you didn't feel like that. But it's okay to feel like that. You said it yourself.
It's like this dangling carrot that you feel like you've got to grab, and then all of a sudden that particular Tuesday you wake up and you go, I don't feel this pain, I don't feel this anguish anymore. But I'm pushing that carrot away because I can't help it. And I've just got to, like I started this podcast about owning it. I am owning it. I'm owning the fact that I'm allowed to have those feelings and I'm allowed to let other people understand. It's been in the press quite a lot this past month. My other half, my fiance, he lost his mum with the battle of cancer, and I openly said that I did go back to work too soon. What I meant, and what it got kind of twisted in the press, that was work were mind blowing. They gave me leave. They said, you take as much time as you want. They wrote me out. I couldn't have asked for better bosses with that, where that's concerned. And my fellow cast members, the colleagues who were there when I was bawling my eyes out, and then I had to go and stick the lashes on as Mandy and be happy and funny. What it was the 3 days when I said I went back too soon. It was the 3 days between her passing and then the funeral on the Friday. I shouldn't have gone back. I thought I was strong enough, and I wasn't, because it brought it all back. The pain even more about my mum and the dreaded word cancer, and seeing someone at the end suffer, and when someone is in palliative care, and it shouldn't feel like that ticking time bomb, and you don't want them to suffer, and that all came flooding back. So yeah, I had to be there for my Al. I had to support him and, be the best partner that I could possibly be. And the other members of the family and stuff like that, and do my bit to the best of my ability. But yeah, to go back to work that quickly was silly. And then after the funeral, they then gave me a lovely clump of time off, and I was so grateful. But yeah, my nearest and dearest at work, they do know. They know, when my, what should we say, my glass is only half full of a day. Normally it's brimming over. But yeah, there's days when I don't want to be silly and daft. It's rare, but yeah.
Is it hard? Is it hard then to switch on, Mandy, when you're feeling like that?
Yeah, what I tend to do is, and it's not the fact that I'm being all like method, right? But I do, and a fellow brilliant actress that I'm currently working with, who I simply adore. We've been sharing dressing room a lot recently, and she's been there for me, like when Al's mum died, and she's been there for me as a really good friend because we're working so closely together. And she just said to me over a cup of tea the other day, it's about 4 days ago, and she said, the second you walk in the building, you're Lisa, and I see you, and you're you, and I've got upset. She said, the second you put the costume on and the lashes and the wig goes on, she says, you just dive literally into Mandyland. And then literally once it all goes back on the rail at 6:30 at night, I'm back. And I do, and it's all a bit busy and mayhem, and I keep the ball in the air. It's like you wouldn't go and watch Wimbledon if the ball was on the floor. So that's the way I look at my job. I have to keep Mandy's ball completely in the air whilst I'm there, and I have to put a lid on how I'm feeling, you know. And you know what? She's a great free medication, you know. I'm not, you know. I'm not charging the NHS anything for playing Mandy Dingle or any therapy. She's a great deterrent. She truly is. Yeah,
that's fab.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about something. This is purely for my benefit, because when I was little, actually, I need to ask you this. How old are you again?
46 in July, just
46.
Yeah.
So you're not that much older than me. You're 7 years older than me. So I don't understand how that. So when I was younger, Sunday night before going to school, you know, You've Been Framed came on, and you know that's how you knew that. That's how you knew. Yeah, that's how you knew that was your week. And you know, it was bath night. You know, going to You've Been Framed was and probably still is to an extent one of my favourite programs ever.
Yeah,
I loved it when Beto did it.
Yeah.
I adored it when you did it. Harry Hill, you know, I could give or take. I'll get the big collar. How it seemed like a bit of a left field choice coming to get for you to be doing You've Been Framed. How did that come about? And you know, and how much did you enjoy that job?
Yeah, well, the reason, going back to what you said then about the age thing, I think people forget how young I was. You know, I was unbelievably young to be, you know, presenting one of the biggest shows on Saturday and Sunday night. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think basically it was a sort of parallel time where Cilla Black was really, really big, and she was the kind of northern, you know, everyone loved her. And I think what the producers saw, and I now know this, so much older and so much wiser, is that they saw within me that kind of wholesome, buxom, you know, Cilla-esque, northern, not afraid to be who I am sort of girl. And they wanted to fill that slot, you know, and that's what they got. And I look back now and, oh my God, the stuff they dressed me in, Jesus. You know, I look like an overgrown Christmas tree some days. It was just like, it was horrendous. We never got the styling right, ever. But I'll forgive myself for saying yes to everything back then. You know, again, you learn as you get older. But yeah, that all happened very, very fast. At that point, I've been in Emmerdale 7 years. We tried to make it work where it would run parallel with me filming Emmerdale, and then the schedule was too big. And then after Beadle, my figures went off the chart. You know, you think now what the flagship shows get. I was getting 11.5 million on a Saturday night. It's insanity. And back then there weren't many females on the weekend, you know. So it just kind of went from strength to strength. And then we started doing the daytime show as well at 5 o'clock. We filled that gap when the CITV stuff went, and there was lots of it. So I was just being myself. That was it. And I think the writers would just make me this like kind of jolly, happy-go-lucky girl. And I thought, well, I'll have a stab at being a presenter. Now, I will say, Jesus, I was never the best presenter in the world, and I had a lot of learning to do. That's the truth, and I know that now. I've since done loads more presenting, and now it's a lot more natural to me, and I can do live. And God, I remember the first time I ever did live. It was, oh my Lord, it was treacherous, right? But again, you've got to scuff your knee and put the plaster on to get better in life. And I've openly said that about myself. Even now, if I don't learn every day at work, I've not had a good day. You've got to keep learning in this industry. But yeah, I loved it. I had a ball, and I've always had that wonderful, again, ITV. I've had that wonderful relationship with ITV. They've always been very generous to me throughout all my career. But yeah, I think after 5 years on the show, I'd kind of done my bit, and yeah, looking back, as I said before, that sisterhood thing, doing it for the girls, it was a rarity, and then of course I got replaced by a bloke. It was that you missed someone out. You missed out Robbie Williams' best mate. He did it.
Johnny
Wilkes. Yeah, Jonathan Wilkes. He did it for a year. Yeah. He did it. So yeah, they were probably just trying. And then do you know what I always used to say about the show? Because it was enormous in America. And in the American show that ran for years and years, they never had a host. It was just the clips with a narrator. Mm-hmm. So when Harry Hill took over it as a voiceover, I think that's when they got it right, because you didn't need the glossy studio. You didn't need someone going, oh, coming up next is, where's the swings and the slides? Let's have a look. You didn't need me doing that as in a Christmas tree outfit. Mm. You just needed me in a studio booth going, okay, whoops, here comes the banana. That's all you needed as a voiceover. But, yeah, I still watch the show and I love it. And it's really weird for my gorgeous middle nephew, Joshua. He's hilarious because he's watched it for years and he's like, really? That's your show? And I was like, yes, darling. And he's watched it he watches it on YouTube over and over. And it's obviously, he wasn't born, so he now watches the reruns on YouTube with me, and he still can't get his head around it. That it's the funny video program. Yeah.
Was Jeremy still alive when you took over? Yeah. So did you get to meet him? Did you get the advice and whatnot?
He was amazing. He was so beautifully gracious. Yeah, we went for dinner. I'll never forget it. We went to the Reform restaurant in Manchester one afternoon with Nigel Hall, the exec producer, who then went on to. Nigel's a really good friend. He's gone on to work with Simon Cowell, and he's massive in Hollywood now. And we met together, and he was so lovely and really, really supportive. And he said it's a tough gig, and he said that he wanted me to kind of fly with it. And one thing he did say was make it your own. Don't do anything and that's where that came. Don't do anything silly unless you're being framed. It was like, don't do anything silly, just do it on your own. So that's where that all came from. Yeah.
Oh, amazing! That must have. I mean, those were pretty big shoes to fill as well. So you must have felt the pressure.
Of course, I did. And I was, because you got to remember, I was a kid. Yeah. I was a novice. I was thrown into the deepest end of the swimming pool. For something that I'd never done before. I'd never hosted. Never mind, primetime TV. When you watch the likes of Ant and Dec now, who do it with their eyes closed, and it's really hard to hold your own show. And most days we're recording 3, sometimes 4 episodes a day with a live audience who all want to talk to you. It's not just like go out there and then they watch the show for real, and you've got to keep your energy all the time for that. Yeah.
Before I wrap up, I want to know about I love Emmerdale. Well, I loved Emmerdale, right? When I was a wee boy in my house, my mum loves her soaps, and Emmerdale Farm.
Emmerdale Farm back then, yeah.
From back then, and the one thing I love about the soaps nowadays and any days is the fact that everything happens in that small little thing. In particular on Christmas Day, right? Let's just say on Christmas Day, either somebody's going to die or somebody's getting married or somebody's getting born. It's always one of those things. Yeah. 50 years this year. Is there anything that you can tell me?
Yes, I can. So Janine, our press officer, has given me what I'm allowed to tell you. So you are going to get blown away, literally.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be enormous. There's one thing that's going to happen that can only happen in Emmerdale because of where we are and the set. That's one thing I can tell you. And I can also tell you that Aaron's coming back. Yes, so Danny Miller is coming back just for a short stint, which is really exciting because I love him to death. And what's going to happen is throughout the weaving of stories, Mandy, Aaron and Paddy are going to be really together to look after people, okay? And what's going to happen. But it's going to be very much, Paddy, Aaron and Mandy, the three of us together. I keep saying like the famous five, but three. Together. And of course, we've got Faith's breast cancer story, and it has been spoken about. It will come to an end. I'm losing Sally, she's just one of the most amazing actors in our show. And seeing her recently, without giving too much away, we filmed a lot of her end-of-life palliative care, and we're working very closely with people, who've had palliative care through breast cancer. So we are going to get it right, and it's going to really hit home, and it's going to hit home to people like me because I've had that myself. But I did a scene with her the other day in the Woolpack, which will be coming on soon. And she just blew me away. And I turned to Eden, who plays Belle, my niece in the show, and I went, wow, that's just what happened to my mum, and as an actor to perform that. So you've got a lot of emotion that's going to come from there. Yeah, the 50th is going to be unbelievable. We get our scripts normally it's normally about 27 days before we shoot that episode. We get them in a bundle. And what I can tell you, Chris, is as they're here, I can show you now. There's all the 50th. There it all is there. See, all there, all in there. And I can't tell you anything. But what I will tell you is that there's lots of tears. There's lots of tears. And when a script can make you not cry out loud, just tears drop onto the page, the writers have done the right thing. Yeah. Adam Sales is one of the most incredible writers on the show, and they've given him sort of my story that I'm heavily, it's Adam Sales has just done the most incredible job. I messaged him the second I finished reading it, so I think the viewers are just going to be they're going to be blown away.
I want to say a huge thank you once again to Lisa Riley for joining us on the Peer Project podcast. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for even just going to the effort of chatting to me. It's been amazing. What a fantastic chat. Remember, if you want to get in contact, you can find me all over social media. You can look for Duke Writes Books. You can look for Jukebox Media. And you can look for the Peer Project. You can find us all over there if you want to tell us anything, if you want to ask anything, if you want to volunteer to come on the podcast, then feel free, do it. As always, all of our links to support what we do are in the description of this podcast. So I look forward to seeing you very, very soon with my next guest on the Peer Project podcast.